الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح حي على الفلاح الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم الحمد لله نحمده ونستعينه ونستغفره ونعوذ بالله من شرور انفسنا ومن سيئات اعمالنا واشهد ان لا اله الا الله وحده لا شريك له واشهد ان محمدا عبده ورسوله اما بعد أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. Brothers and sisters, before getting into the theme of the Khutbah, I ask, as we ask before the beginning of every Khutbah, that we remember our brothers and sisters throughout the Ummah of the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu who may be in misery or distress, who may be suffering, whether they know the cause of their suffering or not. And the recurring theme, unfortunately, in this part of the Khutbah is definitely has been the situation in Gaza, in Palestine in general. Because now, and it hasn't been just in Gaza, the physical genocide of just killing now up to 36,731 men, women, and children. 71% of those who've been killed in this genocide in Gaza have been women and children and infants. 71%. It's estimated that there's still at least 10,000 bodies that have not been recovered under the rubble there in Gaza. We also see in Gaza that there is a continuing genocide that's going on. It hasn't stopped at all. As a matter of fact, now it's as if the Zionist milk IDF, that this Israeli Defense Force, that they're deliberately targeting schools now. The schools, the few schools that are left, and bombing and killing children while they're in school. Brothers and sisters, this is a kind of genocide that is very seldom seen in a kind of environment like we have today, with so many nations on the face of the earth who could potentially do something to stop the genocide, but find themselves just standing and watching. And the only thing that we can do physically or practically is to make dua for our brothers and sisters. I also want to add the conflict that's been mentioned for the last few weeks between two parties trying to take control of the government in Sudan. That now the United Nations and other agencies are estimating that by September of this year, that there will be 2.5 million people in the Sudan who died of starvation. So the degree of suffering that we're seeing throughout the Muslim world is beyond anything that we've seen in recent times. So please remember, our brothers and sisters, as we go about our day-to-day activities, do not forget, please make dua for our brothers and sisters in Palestine. Brothers and sisters, as you know better than I, that Dhul Hijjah, the month on the Islamic calendar that we're in right now, as a matter of fact, the first day of Dhul Hijjah is today. As we know that this is one of the sacred months, but more importantly for the world of Muslims, that this is the month of Hajj. That in a few days, millions of our brothers and sisters who have been gathering in and around in Minna, that they will start the performance of another Hajj. And I want to just take just for a few moments to remind myself and remind you of the most important Hajj that has ever been performed, and that was the Hajj of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. You and I know that during the 23-year mission of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he only performed Hajj one time. But his prophetic mission, with everything else that he did, teaching us every aspect of how we're to conduct ourselves as human beings, that we only learn the finer points of how to perform Hajj within the last year of his life when he performed this Hajj of Wada, this farewell pilgrimage. And he was making comments to so many of the believers, make sure if you're planning something else, come join me in this Hajj. And there are estimates that coming to Medina, as he was calling the Muslims, come with me to Medina, come with me to Mecca, perform Hajj together. That 90 estimates range that I've seen, 90,000 to 130,000 Muslims converge in and around Medina to be able to accompany the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam to Mecca for this farewell pilgrimage. Once the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam got to Mecca, there were an equal number of brothers and sisters all over the peninsula of Arabia who had come to join so many tens of thousands who were with the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam as he left Mecca to go towards Medina. That this is the most important Hajj that has ever been performed by any individual or by any group of individuals, no matter who the leader of the Hajj delegation could have been. Whether it was Mansa Musa, that we all know his story, that he was this king of Mali, this Muslim king, that he had so much gold that as he left from West Africa and went to the Hajj, that the value of gold went down because he was just spreading so much, giving so much zakat as before he even got to Mecca. We know the story of so many of the sultans, so many of the caliphs who came after this Hajj of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu, every one of them making a contribution, because it's not like it is today. Oftentimes, those who were performing Hajj may have been killed on the way, because the remnants of the Byzantine Empire, the old eastern wing of the Roman Empire, still existed, and they were attacking the Hujjah. They were killing the Muslims, making it to Hajj. And it was the responsibility of the caliph to try to secure pathways for wherever the Muslims were coming from, to secure their routes, but they couldn't secure anyone. But yet, The brothers and sisters knew that this is a duty and responsibility that I must do. I have to, if it means saving from the time I'm 20 years old till I get 70 years old, I have to perform this duty, even if it means being killed along the way or being killed on the way back. So no matter what we look at in the history, there was nothing more important in going to this pilgrimage for us after the time of the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu. Nothing more important than this particular pilgrimage of the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu and over 200,000 of others who had come from Medina with the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu and met him in Mecca. Brothers and sisters, this particular Hajj, as the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu knew, was one that he was going to cement into our minds and hearts those elements of our practice, no matter where we found ourselves on the face of the earth, that there were some universal, timeless principles that all of us, if we wanted success in this world and in the next, that we had to follow these principles. We couldn't just go out and express and practice Islam in any way that we felt like. We couldn't just treat our brothers and sisters in any way that we felt like. And doing this particular Hajj, this Hajj of the Prophet Muhammad Sallallahu, he made it clear, I will leave you with some things. If you do these things, you have the best chance for success in this world and in the next. So it's not hard right now, although they're gathering all over the world on the hills of Mecca, hills around Medina, are resounding with these hujjah coming. And they're declaring Labbaika, Allahumma Labbaika. لبيك لا شريك لك لبيك إن الحمد والنعمة لك والملك لا شريك لك. Here I am, O Allah. Here I am. You have no partner. Here I am. Verily, all praise, grace, and sovereignty belong to you. You have no partner. So this is what's resounding all over those hills, all over this valley where we find the Kaaba. This is what's going on today. For the purpose of the Khutbah, I want to relate that to the attitude that you and I should have every morning. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala returns our souls to our bodies. And we're able to wake up. We're able to function. That we should be waking up with the spirit of those who are on Hajj, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala invited to make the Hajj this year. We should wake up with the spirit of Labbaika, Allahumma Labbaik, that here I am, O Allah. I'm here. I'm ready to serve you. Brothers and sisters, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu, as I said, emphasized a number of points, but they can almost be characterized just as 5 points that he was leaving this ummah with. That if we want to understand our overall responsibilities, put it in a social context, not just practicing Islam in the comfort of our houses. How are we to relate to our brothers and sisters? What is it that's so important that the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, as he was going through this farewell khutbah, he would stop and he would ask those who would assemble, have I delivered the message? In other words, do you hear what I'm saying? Do you understand what I'm saying to you on this occasion of Hajj? It's important. Don't forget it. Our walk may not be with you after this year. And so many turn out as the history tells us, because they were hearing all these stories where the Prophet was saying, he was telling his friends, he was telling others, come with me. I may not be able to make this trip ever again. So the Prophet Muhammad, I'll just go emphasize maybe just a couple of them. The first thing that the Prophet Muhammad emphasized was not that of how we relate to our family. He wasn't talking about how do we interact with those outside of our ranks, those who don't believe as we believe. The Prophet Muhammad was starting with the very most basic fundamental right that every Muslim has over another Muslim. And he was emphasizing that your blood, your property, and your honor are forbidden for anyone else, meaning you can't violate, you can't draw blood from another believer without some justifiable reason. You're punishing them. The hudud is on them, and now something has to happen to him. But that blood is sacred for the believers. The honor of another Muslim is sacred. Don't violate the honor of another believer. This is Hajar al-Wada. This is the farewell pilgrimage. And the Prophet Muhammad is emphasizing the interpersonal relationships that Muslims have with one another. Don't violate the blood. Don't violate the honor. They're forbidden to us. The Prophet Muhammad was saying that the sanctity of this day in this month of yours, in this city of yours, that you will certainly meet your Lord and he will certainly question you about what you did. And the Prophet concluded with, do you understand what I'm saying? Do you understand what I'm saying to you? The Prophet Muhammad went on to make it clear to this ummah on this farewell Hajj that there is equality amongst all human beings. What difference would that make in the worldly success of the Muslims? If we got the money, if we got the smarts, we got the knowledge of Quran, we got the knowledge of Sunnah. And the Prophet Muhammad is now standing in front of the largest group of Muslims that had gathered in one place to listen to him. He thought it was so important that he had selected a brother who had a real powerful voice. There were so many people who said, look, I know everybody won't hear, but they keep repeating. And I can't remember the brother's name, but I want you to repeat every word that I say, because of so many people, they can't hear my voice. He made sure that those who had assembled would hear these final words that they would hear. Many of them would hear from the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu. And he's saying to them that all human beings are equal, that there's equality from all human beings. If we are descendants of Adam and Hawa as we are, there's no superiority of an Arab over a non-Arab, or a non-Arab over an Arab. A white has no superiority over a black, and a black has no superiority over a white. That none has superiority, and not given a word by word accounting. But he goes on to say that none has superiority over another except by piety and good deeds. Brothers and sisters, the Prophet Muhammad and this divinely inspired wisdom was warning this ummah of the Prophet Muhammad of something that even today plagues so many of us. in this ummah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. Brothers and sisters, you and I know that the attitude that many Muslims, not in this room, not in Muslims at all, but there's an attitude amongst many Muslims in different parts of the Ummah of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu, that their attitudes about the superiority of themselves based on birth is something that is holding back, is something that's destroying the fiber of Muslims, the social fiber of Muslims. This was the second thing that the Prophet Muhammad on this farewell khutbah, where he was saying that I may not be with you anymore, but I want you to hear and understand that after 23 years of his prophetic leadership, I'm leaving you with some points. I want you to understand how critical it is not to violate the blood of the rights of another brother or sister. That this is so important that it can destroy the very fiber of the ummah. That we cannot, no matter how intelligent we think we may be, no matter how much we can afford the niceties of life, that there's no superiority of any of us over any other believer except through righteousness, except through what we do that's conforming to the dictates from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the guidance of the Prophet Muhammad. So this farewell pilgrimage, that was something that the Muslims went back to wherever they had come from. And everybody who wasn't able to make the pilgrimage, I'm sure that they were asking, what did Prophet Muhammad say? And they related to these final instructions to the totality of this ummah. And it included attitudes that we have in one another. It included taking advantage of because we're brothers and sisters, that we would take advantage of one another in some kind of way. These are two qualities that the Prophet Muhammad said that should not exist in the hearts of the believers. Brothers and sisters, one of the lessons that we all, starting with myself, should get from these instructions from the Prophet Muhammad on this subject of life. And that is that, as the Prophet Muhammad had said so many times to his ummah, that there's so much uncertainty about our lives. There's so much uncertainty that you and I, that no one knows whether or not from the Salat, even whether or not we will live through the Jumah Salat. That we came here to make Jumah Salat. It's a command from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, especially for men, Muslim men. We don't know. There's so much uncertainty about how long we'll be on this earth that we don't even know whether we'll be alive. I'm sure some of you have seen pictures on the internet, on Facebook, and other places, where brothers are literally praying the Jumah Salat, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala takes their soul while they're making the Salat. We don't know whether or not we're going to survive from this Jumah Salat to Asr Salat. It's something about our consciousness about prayer that we should keep in mind every time we're making prayer, thanking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that we were alive to make this one, because no matter what we die, it's going to be between two prayers. It's going to be between two salat. Regardless of what time we die. You die at night, that means it's between Isha and Fajr. You die after this prayer before Asr, that means it's between Jumah and the Asr Salat. No matter when Allah takes our soul, it's between two Salat. And we don't know how long Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is going to give any of us. And so when the Prophet Muhammad kept repeating, have I delivered my message? Do you understand what it is that I'm saying? It's not just a good speech. It's providing instructions for success for this ummah of the Prophet Muhammad. So we can't procrastinate and saying, well, I'll get it together. I need to read a few more books. I need to understand a few more hadith. I need to have memorized more ayahs from Quran before I start changing my behavior, before I start trying to live the way the Prophet Muhammad has shown that we live. We don't have the luxury of procrastinating in doing the things that we're commanded to do and not doing the things that Allah and the Prophet Muhammad said that are forbidden to us and for us to stay away from these things. Brothers and sisters, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in His mercy to us as human beings doesn't take our lives the moment that we do something against Him. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gives us a long lease, and that we can either do good during that long period of time, if Allah gives us a long life, or we can build a life of sin and corruption and violate everything that this deen is calling upon us to do. It's our choice. That's where our free will comes in as human beings. The free will comes in our making a choice to do that which we know is correct and staying away from that which is forbidden. In closing, I just want to mention that this idea, I think the first time I made Hajj, and this was in the mid-'80s, and I was looking around trying to see, well, what can I get to put on the wall at the house, gifts that I give, and these kinds of things. And I was going from one shop to the next because I wanted to get some posters as one of the things I bring back. And I was going from shop to shop. And I was looking at some of the posters that they were displaying for people to buy. And this Hazrat al-Wada, this Pharaoh sermon was something that I just kept seeing in shop to shop. But they were in English. And every shop I went into, there was something missing. It was just part of the speech that the chroniclers, the Muslim chroniclers, those biographers, those who are writing about this Pharaoh speech in every single shop. And I'm not saying this was a lot, but in the small sample size that I had, every single one was selling something about this farewell sermon. And it didn't include anything about no superiority of white over black. Some of them didn't include no superiority over Arabs, over non-Arabs, and vice versa. So it was a kind of selective editing. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala knows best. I'm not saying that people, because they were buying it, they weren't making these posters, they were buying it, they may not have been able to even read the Arabic and translate it to know what's supposed to be there. But whoever made these posters had to know that they were leaving out very critical instructions that the Prophet Muhammad had given to this ummah. about the attitude that we have of one another, superiority of one group of people over another. And they were editing it in a way that if you didn't know any better, you would think, well, I'm a black guy, but prophets or something left us out of that equation, so I don't know whether that applies to us or not. Or I'm a white person, but it was a selective editing that, in my humble opinion, reflected the prejudice that those who were producing these posters had. I don't think it was by mistake. I honestly can't convince myself that that was done by mistake. So, brothers and sisters, Apostle Paul gives us just a few years to get it right. There's no comeback after we are put in that grave and that barrier is placed between this world and the next world for all of us in the grave. There's no comeback from that. There's no redo. So from the youngest of age, teach our children those things that Allah and the Prophet Muhammad have emphasized for our individual and collective success. Oh Allah, give us an understanding of this thing that is useful for us in this world and in the next.
Amen.
Oh Allah, make not our actions an object of test for the disbelieving people, and oh Allah, forgive us for our mistakes.
Amen.
Brothers and sisters, I have a few very short announcements. The first one is one that's really special to me, and for those who know the couple. But we have a Nika immediately after the service today. And the Nika is a little bit different than what we normally do. It's not something bizarre, but it's a different process. And the process with this Nika is that there is a family a couple who have gotten married through the courts 50 years ago and have been together as believing husband and wife for 50 years. But the husband told me that the wife has been saying for decades, I don't know, I hope it hasn't been that long, but she wanted to have a nikah. That she knew and felt that, yes, I'm married. It ain't something quite right. It's not really a marriage until I have a nikah. So, dear brother Umaleen, his wife, sister, for sure, will, right after you make your sunnahs and so on, we'll have this. This is the first time, and the reason why I'm spending so much time talking about it, this is the first time in the years I've been Muslim that I've been involved with someone who, through the so-called courts, have been married so long, but still feel that even after all this time, it's not complete until I do it this way. Also, we established last week a hospitality committee. We have sisters who immediately volunteered for it. I'm trying to wait until we get at least a couple of brothers to volunteer to visit, make it a point to visit those who may be in the hospital, those who are sick in their homes. If the brothers want to be shamed by the sister stepping forward, the brothers not doing anything, that's on you. But I'm asking that if you get at least 2 volunteers for the brothers to be a part of this committee. Because we don't want to meet some brothers. Go ahead and really put it forward. Okay, come to start.
الله أكبر الله أكبر أشهد أن لا إله إلا الله أشهد أن محمدا رسول الله حي على الصلاة حي على الفلاح قد قامت الصلاة قد قامت الصلاة الله أكبر الله أكبر لا إله إلا الله.
Just like you are,
الله أكبر. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. اقتربت الساعة وانشق القمر وإن يروا آية يعرضوا ويقولوا سحر مستمر وكذبوا واتبعوا أهواءهم وكل شيء مستقر ولقد جاءهم من الأنباء ما فيه مزدجر حكمة بالغة وما تغني النذر فتول عنهم يوم يدعو الداعي إلى شيء نكر خشعن أبصارهم يخرجون من الأجداث كأنهم جراد منتشر مهطعين إلى الدار يقول الكافرون هذا يوم عسر. الله أكبر. سمع الله لمن حمده. الله 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 الله. الحمد لله رب العالمين الرحمن الرحيم مالك يوم الدين إياك نعبد وإياك نستعين اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت عليهم غير المغضوب عليهم ولا الضالين. كذب قبلهم قوم نوح فكذبوا عبدنا وقالوا مجنون وازدجر ودعا ربه أني مغلوب فانتصر ففتحنا أبواب السماء بماء منهمر وفجرنا الأرض عيونا فالتقى الماء على أمر قد قدر وحملناه على ذات ألواح ونسر تجري بأعيننا جزاء لمن كان كفر ولقد تركناها آية فهل من مدكر وكيف كان عذابي ونذر ولقد يسرنا القرآن للذكر فهل من مدكر كذب عاد فكيف كان عذابي ونذر إنا أرسلنا عليهم ريحا صرصرا في يوم نحس مستمر تنطق الناس كأنهم أعجاز نخل منقعر وكيف كان عذابي ونذر ولقد يسرنا القرآن للذكر فهل من مدكر الله أكبر سمع الله لمن حمده الله 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 أكبر السلام عليكم ورحمة الله السلام عليكم ورحمة الله
Like the past 2 or 3 weeks have been announcing that they're car wash tomorrow Saturday, so while they was what's supposed to be good, no rain, get car wash starting at 10, up to soon washing. So we'll put these rain car on, wash. We also curb. Okay, so to finish your soon as
Somebody, there's a potluck tomorrow.
Oh, I'm sorry, Sister it was off schedule. Secretary.
5:30, 6 o'clock. 6 o'clock tomorrow, potluck.
What you got? What you got going? She's not married. So, Nika, I think it's much. Okay.
Hold on one second.
Okay. So, like you brothers and sisters have mentioned in the announcements, that this is very special. Not using the term Michael. I think this is a demonstration of consciousness. It's a reflection of consciousness. That after having been married for so many years, there's still something missing. In an environment like we are, this social environment that we live in today, it's very rare that you find a couple who have 50 years. This is truly some old school stuff. But it's something that as Muslims that we should be bringing back. Because the idea of this changing wives and changing husbands, you get angry about something, divorce, whether you're trying to work, divorce is allowed, there's something wrong. But when we have a couple that are able to work through whatever challenges that they come for a period of time, hang together, and to develop the kind of demand. I'm not going to say anything specific, I don't want to embarrass either one of you, but I'll just say that the level of demand that I personally have experienced with my brother and sister is inspirational for me. And I'm not just talking about marriage. It would be inspirational to everyone who understands dedication, especially dedication. I will share one quick thing, and then I'll get into what I'm sitting now. And that is that for many crimes, I had asked, others have asked, that we make for our brother who come in. And whether everybody do it or not, this is brother who come in. Brother that we will make it the ground for. And Sister Shira was every minute of the day right there with your brother. He was going through challenges. But they were, he was also, and she was also continuing a habit, not a habit, but a practice that they had developed years ago, and that was making to hush it every single night. And throughout this medical challenge that he was going through, both of them were still making to hush it every single night. And I can go on and on, but this is something that inspires me. I think that I want to share it that, with others, that there's no excuse for me not to be getting up, making to hunch it after Brother Lane maintained it. He already had to practice. Going through the most serious phase of his illness, he and his wife maintained. So it's special to me. First, if you're sitting here, sitting here with both of you. Okay, so let me shut up while we. This fellow had this. Brothers and sisters, as we know in Islam, marriage is primarily a contract. It's an agreement that husband and wife will govern their lives according to the guidance of Islam, to the best of their understanding. There's nothing in the Islamic contract that says anything about to them to all. That's not part of our tradition. But it's the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that keeps us in marriages. And you, I'm saying directly back to yourself, we work through whatever challenges, and it's the fear, the more in man, the more fear we have of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and knowing that we're going to account for everything that we've done and said and all that, especially in marriages. It's a good reason to try to really do it right, and try to stay together in marriages, unless it's just short of circumstances. So the period of time to at this juncture to say that we need to have the Nika is second. So I won't go through a lot of things about about Islamic marriage, but I will ask Sister Bashir first to you to take Brother approval as your Muslim husband to live with him and to govern your relationship according to the best understanding that you have in his and agree to take Sister Bashir as your wife, to live with her and to govern your relationship according to the best understanding that you have. With these few words having been exchanged, all of us present as witnesses to the fact that this is the largest thing that after drink that's great. But those of us present as witnesses, knowing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is the ultimate witness, that those angels that are assigned to each one of us, that they are present here writing this down. Kiyama is in the book of deeds. So with those, knowing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, those of us present, we recognize the cop of the system. Sure, brother, we pray that success continues. Continued success of his marriage. His marriage would be consideration of the smokes. Open your Takbir. Takbir. Takbir.